Hello, everyone, and welcome back to My First Mon. I'm one of your hosts, Jack Martin, alongside the Pokemon Master, Christian Buckley.
Hello, Jack. I forgot to change my lights to green, but we're good now. I just found the remote. We got green lights for the last episode of Emerald.
Excellent. Now, what's going to be the color of next season? We're doing Platinum and... what is it? Platinum and... Diamond and Platinum?
No, Diamond and Pearl.
Or Diamond and Pearl?
Yes.
So, got some funky colors. It's like a periwinkle and like a light blue.
So it's actually, first, the way they lean into it is Pearl's pink, like pink and white, and then Diamond is like steel blue and like navy and gray.
Okay. Which one are you getting again?
I'm getting Pearl.
Okay. So I'll do the boring, as you can see, boy color of every 20-year-old man has just navy sheets. Yeah. So I'm just gonna continue with that aesthetic.
Well, it works also.
LED lights.
It works also because the room I record in has pink doors and white trim. So there you go. I planned this far ahead. I had my sister paint this room 18 years ago, so for this moment. But,
perfect. It all lines up. So for those that don't know, this is My First Mon. It's our Pokemon retrospective series, with this season culminating in talking about Pokemon Emerald. And we're done. We did it week by week. We did it gym by gym. Christian and I are the new Hoenn champions. And we're just gonna... this episode is essentially serving as sort of a look back on our experience over these past 9+ weeks playing the game. So yeah, this is the final Emerald episode. If you want to support us over on patreon.com/joyclicks, that'd be very appreciated. It's not necessary, but it'd be very nice. At the $5 level, you can get producer credit and have your name be read out in each episode across all of our shows, just like our Patreon producers, Chris Sakis and Aaron Eason. So thank you both for doing that. Now, usually we have a segment called Trainer Tips, and we'll get to that. But before we get into trainer tips, I think, Christian, we should talk about what fans should expect, what our trainers should expect about the future of the show. So do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Sure. So for those that have been following since the beginning, back in like 2019, you know that we took a large gap between Season 1, Red and Blue, Season 2, Crystal, and the gap was lesser so this time because Jack and I were like, hey, if we're doing it remotely, might as well just roll right into it pretty much. So we figured that to give the show a bit of a breather, to help, hear your feedback, have our new ideas come to fruition of what we want to do for the show moving forward, and just because we're lined up good to go for Gen 4 next, considering there's Gen 4 remakes in the fall, we've officially decided, yes, Diamond and Pearl, Sinnoh, that gen, for this show, will be done via the remakes that are dropping, presumably in November or October. I think it's safe to say we'll be there day one for those, so like, whenever they drop, the show will be back. Probably the week before we'll do a preview episode, and then the week after they're out, expect episode 1, first gym of Sinnoh. So.
Yeah, so bit of a break between now and then, but we think for good reason, because I think it'll just add like a level of uniqueness to the show that we've been doing, because of course it is very different than what we've been doing. It is Gen 4, but it's the new version of Gen 4. And we can also, like you were saying this to me before we started recording, like we can play with each other and battle each other and trade and all that sort of stuff. So if I want a golem finally, I can just go to you. Yeah. And no problem. That thing's evolved to a golem like that.
Maybe Neon Rider will forgive you if you finally get a golem if you do a Geodude again. But yeah, like you were saying, I think it's gonna have the benefit of capturing the footage on an HD system. The Switch is just a convenient console to use, as well as it's seeming to be a pretty faithful remake of the originals, just with different art, and down the line in the future, that's not to say like we're never going to see what the DS Pokemon games look like, because like personally the DS look of Pokemon is my favorite look of the series, but Black and White are also DS Pokemon games, and those were sort of the culmination of that style. So we're not completely skipping the DS, it's just the stars align in a perfect way where it's like, hey, we both love the Switch. It'd be nice to have the full battle features of Pokemon. We can implement that into the show too, and it just made too much sense. So
definitely. I also like feeling like we're gonna be in the zeitgeist, because it won't just be the show; it'll be everyone else experiencing Gen 4 for the first time or playing it for the 1000th time, just with updated graphics and all that. So it'll be cool to sort of be in the know of a recent game that just came out. So I think that'll be quite interesting for the show's dynamic, and also for all of you that are watching, because I feel like you will probably be playing that if you're into Pokemon and you want that new experience. So I think it'll be a good experience overall. So we're looking forward to that.
Agreed.
Excellent. Christian, do you want to hit us with some trainer tips?
Sure. So the highlight of the week, shout out, definitely not Pedro. They said, I'm thinking of playing along for next season, but instead of playing the remakes, I could play the original Diamond and Pearl on the DS or even Platinum. I think it would be interesting to check out the differences in the originals versus the remakes. So
100%.
Yeah.
This is super interesting. If once we get down that line and you're thinking of doing that, we would 100% welcome that. I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah, because like you said also, when these games drop is when the show comes back, so there will be other people following along. Maybe more people could pitch in what their experience is like in the remakes, or like definitely not Pedro, if you're a Pokemon fan and you want to play along, you've been able to do that for the past few seasons because we break it up, gym a week, but also you could just pick up Diamond and Pearl again on the DS. Maybe you played Pearl as a kid, play Diamond now, there's options. So.
Yeah. I'm also excited to get back to that dynamic of you and I playing different versions. We only did that with Red and Blue, and I don't think there were too many variations of between the two. I think a lot of it came down to like which Pokemon was in which game. But I know with specifically Ruby and Sapphire, there were more changes between the two of those games, and I imagine that trend probably continued with Diamond and Pearl. So
yes.
I'm excited to just talk that out with you and see what's different.
For sure. Also, I cannot understate this enough as well. Like, we can have a lot of new ideas for how the show looks, how it's recorded, how a variety of other things that could just make the show even better given the time gap, because maybe the world becomes a little more normal by the end of this year. That would be excellent, Maybe we can meet up once in a while for an episode or two. There are options and benefits to doing it later in the year, so I think we're going to have a great time with that. So,
I agree wholeheartedly. Anything else from our trainers?
Nothing else this week. Of course, I want to also give a shout out to the Discord. We got Todd and Neon Rider in there talking about last week's episode, giving their input on things. As well, I don't know if we ever got the proper name of the crab lobster Pokemon. It is Corfish, who turns into Groudon.
Gotcha.
So, once again, my bad. But yeah, thank you to the trainers. Very, very excellent tips this season. I would say perhaps the most in-depth and helpful tips of any season so far.
I agree. Huge shout out to all of our trainers. It's really nice coming back every week and seeing a lot of the same names pop up every now and then, and a few episodes divorced, seeing new names. So it's really cool. We've had a lot of season 1 people, along for the ride now in season 3. We've got some more people who picked up during Crystal and now during Emerald. So yeah, it's been wild to just see all the participation that we get in these videos. I think it's a little different from the videos and podcasts that I've been doing on JoyClicks. I think my first mon has one of the most dedicated communities for us, so that's very much appreciated.
Yeah, I can co-sign that. It's fantastic and amazing, and it makes me very happy every week loading up the doc and seeing all the trainer tips, and even within the video upload as well, and live chat too. You know, like popping around, it's the most interactive community, I think, for all the shows, which is fantastic, because this is a very fun show to make, Jack. I'm sure you agree.
Oh yes, it's there. Yeah, there's a lot from the gameplay to just recording it to engaging with everyone. It's a great time. So a lot of that comes down to the trainers. So thank you very much.
One last thing I'll say before we move on. I know November is far away, but I have a couple things I'm kicking around in my head as maybe a one-off, probably upload it to the podcast feed and then on the channel, of like a Pokemon thing, not a playthrough, not a game, maybe just like talking about the anime for a bit or something like that, you know, just like a couple Pokemon things throughout the year. It is the 25th anniversary. Jack and we talk pretty much every day, so like we're gonna be around and be able to do some more Pokemon things if the time is right. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well, for sure.
Perhaps some one-offs here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Also, for anyone out there that's listening and is looking forward to next season, if you could go to the YouTube comments of this particular episode, if you're driving your car, pull over, slam on the brakes, put your hazards lights on, aka the I can park anywhere lights, and go to the YouTube comment section of this video, and let us know if there are any changes you want us to make, like in terms of the formatting, if there's anything you think we could be doing better. If there's things that you like and you want to see more of, let us know. We're always willing to sort of change up the formula to however best you guys like it. So please let us know.
Mm-hmm. I'll also say, if you want a more direct thing, feel free to like at me or DM me on Twitter. My stuff's open at Chun2D2. Just send a little thing. I will relay it to Jack. Or any way you want to give feedback, go for it. It's open. It's welcome.
Yeah. If you somehow found our actual addresses and you sent mail via courier pigeon, we'll respond. We got courier pigeons. We got a coop of courier pigeons on deck.
We got Pidgeys. We got Pidgeys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, please. Any way you want to do that is good with us.
Agreed.
But enough of that, Christian. Let's get right into the show.
Sure.
So, a little bit different. We're not doing the current party or whatever. We already got the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. We all know that. So essentially this will serve as more of a look back on the show, but also right now we'll talk a little bit about what we did after the Elite Four.
Sure.
So, pretty much right after the Elite Four, you get back to Little Root Town.
Yes, you do.
And May is there, and then Birch is there as well. You go down to your living room, and your mom and dad are there. Your dad's actually here, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Someone said something about like, hey, there's like a bird flying around. Did you see what color it was? And you have the option of red and blue.
Mm-hmm.
I chose blue. What did you choose?
I chose blue as well, because this game introduces synergy with the Pokemon brand, Jack, more than ever, I think. Like, obviously, maybe I'm out of pocket for saying that because Pokemon Yellow is a game just based on the show, but like the show also reached a point where, specifically from memory with this season, they had several movies that were dedicated to just specific legendaries. And then these legendaries could be attainable through the game. This is a feature that they go even further in on in Sinnoh, which we'll get to. But there was a movie called like Pokemon Forever, and I think that was the one that had Latias and Latios. They were sibling Pokemon that were legendaries. They're pretty cool. I always liked Latios. That's the blue one. I like him. Yep. So, went for that.
Well, good choice. I was thinking that this was somehow a reference to Red and Blue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it kind of is.
It wasn't.
You know.
Is it?
I mean, yeah. Like, Pokemon likes to make their legendaries usually have, like, a hot color and a cool color. Usually around red, usually around blue. You know, we get to, eventually we get to orange and purple, but, like, the same sort of field, you know, because they just love that. They love playing off that iconic red and blue thing. So,
gotcha.
They'll do what they can.
So I chose blue just because I like the color blue, and that's also why I chose to play Pokemon Blue.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Did that. I think May and Birch bring you to the lab. I think Birch is essentially like, hey, go fill out your Pokedex, and May is just trapped inside that lab forever at this point. So the first thing I did, Scott called me, and you mentioned this to me as well, and he was like, go take a boat somewhere, and it'll allow you the ability to use the Battle Frontier. So did that, and I went to the Battle Frontier.
Very nice. One other thing I want to say before we talk about Battle Frontier, I believe, do we remember in Crystal I talked about Celebi?
Celibacy?
No, Celebi.
No, I don't. I don't remember that.
So Celebi is a Pokemon. Please, if you can, look up Celebi. Celebi is another legendary Pokemon. It's kind of like a little fairy. It's like a grass fairy. It's a legendary, and I believe this might be another rumor or a childhood thing that I never looked into, but I can, I always like sharing these stories because they're fun. So, because you beat Emerald, and then you have to pick what color the bird was, right? I think there's a way to get Celebi in this game, because Celebi was only attainable in Crystal as an event Pokemon. So if you, this is the rumor, this is the childhood playground thing. If you name your character Ash, and you beat Emerald, there will be a Celebi that spawns after you beat become the champion. I have no idea if that's true, but that was just another fun thing about like the game really having these legendary synergies, because there's a Celebi movie, there's a Latios and Latias movie, there's a Deoxys movie, there's a Jirachi movie. Like, all of these Pokemon in one way or another you could have gotten in the game. I don't think we can get them all because of, you know, emulator, and we don't have a GameStop machine, but because you had named a character Ash in the past, I wanted to let you know that I believe that is an option for catching a legendary.
Interesting. I did a quick search about that. I can't find anything about that.
Okay, so that's probably wrong.
It might be one of those schoolyard things. I had a schoolyard rumor that in Spider-Man 2, after you beat the game, you could go out on a date with Black Cat. Turned out not to be true.
Damn.
Couldn't do it.
That's unfortunate.
So, yeah, you always get those stories. It's like, oh man, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And then some kid was just lying for clout. We didn't know it was called that back then, but that's what it was.
Mm-hmm. It sucks that that's kind of gone because of the internet. But any thoughts on Celebi?
Celebi looks cool.
Yeah.
It's a small, like, fairy-looking Pokemon. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool Pokemon.
Yeah, in that movie, you watch it, like, wither of its life force, like E.T. It's scarring, but...
Whoa.
Yeah. Anyways,
that's
Battle Frontier.
So, Battle Frontier. Essentially, what I gathered was there's a bunch of different, like, tents or areas where you can do, like, different themed battles in a way. It was like kind of like the battle tent in a way, which makes sense because Scott was telling you to do that.
Right.
Except it was like, for the one I did, I went inside like the head of a snake. I forget what it was called. And it was essentially like you could pick 3 Pokemon and you maneuver through this area. There's 3 different doors you go into each time. You have to choose one of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of those doors will lead you to a fight. I think one just leads you back to where you were, and another one can like screw you over for the next battle. So I did that, and I didn't make it through. And I was like, I get it, but I don't know if this is for me. I understand the appeal of this, but I don't like the idea of just sort of reframing battles in that way. I guess it adds like some more post-game content for people who want it, but it's not for me.
Yeah, so the Battle Frontier essentially exists to just, you know, prolong the length of the game. It's kind of like its own self-contained Pokemon League in a way, because you can earn I think I never went through with the Battle Frontier. I always thought it was a cool thing, and I did a couple battles, but I never tried to, like, you know, become the, I guess, champion equivalent of the Battle Frontier. But yeah, I think you can get, like, I have the Bulbapedia page pulled up right now. You can earn symbols from fighting here rather than badges. There's a bunch of different locations with, I guess, a different gym leader equivalent tied to each one. I don't know how you would earn a silver symbol versus a gold symbol. Maybe it's dependent on how effective your team is, how many you lose, you know, if you get like an S rank or something. But yeah, the Battle Frontier exists as, like, you nailed it, like it's a post game. There's a bunch of rewards you can get there. You can get stuff to, you know, decorate your secret base. You can get stuff that'll give you stat benefits if you want to go into competitive. You know, there's nice things you can earn here to help you really maximize your team. So it's a resource that, one, inflates game time, and two, rewards the people that just wanted more. So as I'm sure you can probably gather, this post game is a fan favorite.
Yeah, because it's definitely more content. Well, it's more content than Red and Blue, for sure. I would say it's more different than the endgame content in Crystal, because Crystal is just Kanto again, which is cool, but it's nothing wholly unique. But yeah, this is definitely different. I'm not exactly a fan of it because it's kind of like a spin on battles. I never like going into something in Pokemon and being like, oh, we're going to save your game now. And then you can go and enter this, because I'm like, oh, this is like a contest or some sort of thing. This whole thing kind of reminds me of Tachyon Rifts from Marvel's Avengers, and you're the only one who could really understand that reference.
There's probably 2 people listening to this episode that are like, yes.
Yeah. So what that is essentially is Tachyon Rifts is a spin on like a mission in Marvel's Avengers where you drop in, you go to a base, you fight some guys, and you basically do like a Call of Duty domination style fight at the end, and you capture like 3 flags, try to hold on to 2 of them for the majority, and then that's over. But Tachyon Rifts adds like a time limit to it, and you have to fly through these rings to like acquire more time. So it's obviously very different than that, but it reminds me of that in the sense where it's essentially the same thing you've been doing, but it's just like an added spin on the idea of battles in Pokemon. And I'm like, I don't need to do this. That was just my feeling about the Battle Frontier.
Yeah, I bet if we were caught up on Pokemon and this was, you know, the post game, like we didn't have another game to go to, like this, I think we could probably get a couple more weeks out of, you know, if this was up to date, you know.
Yeah.
Because it is an impressive offering. It does have its own unique approach to Pokemon, and it makes you, I think it's interesting because it makes you find and think of different strategies using your team to like maneuver through this area. And I think that there's something interesting there that it forces you to think differently. And that makes interacting with the game and the challenges exciting to a certain degree. So if there's something like this in a future game, or maybe an upcoming game, maybe we explore it. But yeah, I'm with you where I think it's kind of pointless to dedicate more time in this game because of the Battle Frontier, where your real benefit is making the team like an Apex elite team that could go toe-to-toe competitively, right? Where it's like there's no competitive scene for Emerald anymore.
Yeah, this would, for me, if I wanted to actually get through this, I would probably just pop in the 3 legendaries I caught and just sort of burn through it as quickly as I could. Which to me sort of takes the fun out of that. Oh wait, do they not let you do that?
So what's interesting is there are, regardless of any challenge you do, there are certain Pokemon that are not allowed. They are Mewtwo, Mew, Lugia, Ho-Oh, Celebi, Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza, Jirachi, Deoxys.
Oh, Latias. I could use.
You could.
Latias, we'll get to it. Latias is level 40, though.
Yeah, so there's a... I'll save it for when we get to the discussion about Latios. So, any other things about Battle Frontier?
I want to talk about Scott real quick.
Sure.
It's really not important. So, do you... We talked about this a little bit, but I want to maybe remind you a little bit. Do you know what PC Principal looks like from South Park?
Yes.
Okay, so the sprite of Scott in this game looks identical to, at least how I imagine, PC Principal in South Park. I looked up the anime version of Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Not what I pictured at all. He's like this heavy set dude in a Hawaiian t-shirt wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
He looks nothing like I picked. He struck me, and his dialogue struck me as such a douchebag.
Yeah.
With the baseball sunglasses, and he was like, "I'm looking for champs, bro." He was definitely that kind of a dude. And then the anime version looks so different.
Yeah, his sprite in the game, his little chibi sprite, does not convey the anime version of him at all. It does not. No. I looked up Scott for reference. I honestly did not know he looked like that either.
Yeah.
Maybe in the deep recesses of my mind, but I always saw him as we painted him as, little league coach, got a temper,
Yep.
That's what I see Scott as, but no, he seems like a pretty chill dude, maybe. So
yeah, he looks, at least from the photos I'm looking at, he's all smiles with Ash.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did not picture. Did not picture Scott to be like that. So thought that was funny.
Well, do you think Scott will return in the future? Will we have another returning character from this game?
Will we have another returning character from Emerald pop up in Gen 4?
Or future gens, up to you. We saw Oak in Gen 2.
Yeah, probably. Probably in a minor role. Because we do see characters reappear every now and then.
Right.
So,
interesting.
Probably. Yeah. So that's Battle Frontier. Not the biggest fan, but I appreciate its existence in this game.
Yeah.
Adds some more content. So that's cool. The next thing I did was attempt to catch the legendary Pokemon in this game.
Okay.
I had to look up how to do this because I instantly went to Team Magma's hideout, went to the very end. I'm like, where is this goddamn thing?
Yep.
Had to go to the Weather Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Kyogre?
Yes.
Am I saying that correctly?
Kyogre.
Kyogre. Kyogre is Team Magma's, correct?
Kyogre
is Aqua.
Yes, but the confusion comes from the red orb and the blue orb being not associated with the right team.
Yeah. So Kyogre was in this underground water cave in the right side of the map on Route 119 maybe?
I think so.
129, something like that. I had to use dive to get there, but eventually caught up to Kyogre.
What?
And I believe I caught Kyogre with a regular Pokeball.
Hell yeah. What did you think of the search to find Kyogre? Because I think back in the day with Emerald, what I might have done is also look up a strategy or something like that. But when I was younger, at least, I haven't really done this much lately, because more recent Pokemon games, there's really no hunt involved for a legendary. Mm-hmm. It's hey, do this thing you've done to catch 30 different other Pokemon, but this time you can do it for a legendary. Sword and Shield does that specifically. But I always liked going through the environment and finding this cave that you never would have come across in the main game, because now you're looking for it and having to maneuver around and try and find a legendary, because we see that sort of with Mewtwo in the cave, and more specifically the birds in Red and Blue. Crystal, obviously there's the Whirl Islands and the burned tower that you can find some legendaries at, but
yeah,
I think this one is a bit more obscure than those two.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I'll tell you though, trying to actually catch them is like impossible.
Yeah.
It took so much effort in terms of like throwing out ultra balls that like did nothing, throwing out all types of balls, and then I think I got it with just regular little Pokeball, which is always annoying. It's like, why did I even get these things? Why did I even get the ultra balls? It's always the regular Pokeballs that I catch these.
They so
Pokemon with.
So badly want you to use that Master Ball. You know, they're
Yeah.
baiting you. They're like, oh, this would be so much easier if you just threw that little Master Ball.
No, gotta save that one. Gotta save that one. I actually did use this on a different Pokemon.
Very
so
nice.
catch Kyogre, I think with a regular Pokeball. Go back to the Weather Institute, I believe, and then someone says that Groudon is on Route 115, I believe. Basically, I have to like swim north. Oh wait, no, it's in Route 118. There's a whole. I tried to go to 115 and then it like reset apparently, and I had to go to 118. Whatever. I found it in a cave, and it took forever to catch Groudon. Like even more so than Kyogre, because Groudon would like continually use rest and like heal up. And yeah, it was a mess. How did you catch these Pokemon?
I caught Kyogre because Kyogre out of the two is my favorite. I did not go for Groudon because I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's like a locked set, but I think Groudon is roaming. Like you have to go to the Weather Institute and figure out where there's a disturbance, right? Which is a little annoying. But I guess we talked a little bit about legendary encounters with mainly with Red and Blue, because I feel like we had more of them there because there were the birds and Mewtwo. Here, or in Crystal, it was really just Suicune because he needed all these other prerequisites for the others. How are you faring against legendaries? Like, are you changing the strategy up versus how you would normally catch a Pokemon, or what's your approach to trying to catch a legendary?
So for Groudon, who was the harder one, I had... Was it Groudon? Or no, I think... Yeah, Groudon was the fire one. Who did I have out? I might be confusing this in my mind. Because I remember Subtile coming out and like really helping me a lot.
Well...
And that would... Oh wait, Groudon is a ground type.
Right, because Groudon I think has a fire attack, but the typing is ground.
Yes, okay, then never mind. Because I'm thinking Groudon was fire, but Groudon is indeed ground. So yeah, I would have Subtile out using Leaf Blade or Giga Drain to get Groudon low, and then hopefully at that point it's already still asleep because of the rest that I was using, and then just lobbing Pokeballs at that thing, and then hoping for the best. And if Sceptile fainted, I would pull out Kyogre as like a tank, heal up Sceptile, and then get back to it. I couldn't use Kyogre because it would be a one-hit faint, but yeah, that was pretty much what I was doing. It was kind of long and arduous.
So were you were dead set on wanting to capture Groudon? You didn't just want to like defeat it and have that victory? You wanted to own that thing in your collection?
Yeah, I wanted to take this thing from the wild and stuff it into a personal computer for my own satisfaction.
Of course.
Yeah, I mostly did that for this show. I think if I was playing this naturally, I probably wouldn't really mess with the legendaries all that much unless I would need them, because I don't really like the idea of using legendaries all that much. I did in Crystal and in Blue, but I think I was at the point where I was like, I kind of need these things. But in Emerald, I think I leveled my party enough where I didn't really need to use legendaries all that much.
I respect it, because I definitely think that now. You know, I'm in that camp. But when I was younger, it was like, oh, as soon as I can catch legendaries, it's over for these really hard fights. You know, like
yeah.
And I will say, I do think they refined the hunting in Gen 4. Because here it's interesting, it's neat, it's a fun little side thing to do. But I think Gen 4, it's a bit more fleshed out. I'm curious to see how they handle the event Pokemon. I would hope it's not just like you download it and then you can just pick it up somewhere. Because they're like, one of my favorite Pokemon is a legendary, or it's not a legendary, but it's like in that event type status. So there are interesting ways you can approach it, and there's interesting ways you can try to make them fit into your team, I think. Like, if you used a Latios in your team, would you feel bad about that? Because Latios really isn't legendary the same way Suicune kind of isn't.
Yeah, I guess not. Is Latios a flying type?
Yes.
Okay. I already got my water flying bird Pelipper. Obviously the best Pokemon of the game. Not true. But yeah, I mean, I guess not. I probably wouldn't, though. There's something to me about the idea of, I feel like people might use Pokemon like weapons in video games, where, like in Skyrim, if you get enough materials and your smithing skills up enough and you make like the Dragon Bone sword, that's it. That's literally like one of the best weapons in the game. Right. And like you don't need to use anything else. In a similar way, like finding a legendary Pokemon is essentially doing that. It's like, well, this has some of the best stats in the game, so there's really no point in using other Pokemon. But I don't really look at it that way. I kind of like the idea of raising Pokemon more naturally, because you do develop like a little bit of a relationship with these digital characters. Compared to just like weapons and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't tend to look at them that way. That's probably why I don't really use the legendaries all that much.
Sure. And I think that's the way to look at it personally. Like, I think there's something much more satisfying about taking your weird combination of Pokemon and then taking them to the Hall of Fame, you know? Like, I have, like I'm looking at my team right now. I have a Linoone named Freddy. That spot could have been open for Rayquaza, you know? Like,
yeah.
But no, I don't want to have Rayquaza carry me through the Elite Four. You know, there's a pride there, and I'm glad that I'm glad that you've got to that point naturally. You know, like without really me saying like this is how you should do it, because like I think it's just universally there's something more satisfying about that.
Right. I think Ash in the anime also employs similar strategies as well. Sort of uses like Pikachu obviously as his starter Pokemon, and then like he uses Caterpie, which turns into Butterfree. He uses Pidgey, who turns into Pidgeot. At least that's how caught up I am on the anime, which is halfway through season 1 or whatever it is, whatever's on Netflix. So yeah, I think that's probably the way to go, personally.
Definitely.
So I catch those two, and then I remember you saying that like the red and blue thing was a roaming legendary.
Similar to the dogs.
Yes.
Kind of. So.
Exactly. So I had to look up like how to actually go about catching Latios, because I didn't really try with the dogs in Crystal. I remember I saw one, I tried to attack and it instantly fled. So I was like, okay, gotcha. So realized I needed a Master Ball, which I did not collect at any point throughout the story. So I had to go back to the Aqua Hideout and find it, which makes sense because there was a bunch of like teleporters there.
Right.
So that makes sense why I missed it. So got the Master Ball. I looked up a guide. So basically Latios is roaming, so at any point it could be on any route. So this guide said to go inside of a particular building like north of Slateport, and once you go in a building and you come out, you like sort of reset where Latios is, and you have a max repel on, and you use the acro bike. I don't know why this was the situation, but it was. Use the acro bike, you go to the nearest grassy area, and you bounce around for a little bit. And then if nothing happens, you go and you like rinse, wash, repeat essentially until Latios comes. And that's exactly what happened. I think the acro bike, like, I don't know if it's an exploit or whatever it is. You bouncing counts as you moving, but it doesn't count as the steps for the max repel. So like the game will register you like walking around in that route, and if Latios is there, then it'll come mess with you. So that's how that happened.
That is incredible. I've never done that. I did not know that was a way you could approach that, but that's the type of shit that I love about Pokemon. There's all these like weird things, right? That like, oh, if you do this and then that, and then like reset here, like there's just, I can't think of any other series really that like has these weird levels of intricacy for just cool things to happen. Like it's very, very fun, and I love that. That's so amazing.
It is cool. I will say this does remind me, I mentioned the game earlier, but it does remind me of the shit you could get up to in Skyrim before like the few months after patches where it's like, oh, if you place this Ogma Infinium book on your bookshelf and it levels you you can level all of your skills up to like 100 and you're 81 because you put it in your bookshelf. Stuff like that. That reminds me of that, so it was funny.
It's just so fun, dude. Like, I wish more games would work things in like that. Like, we're playing through Metal Gear right now. I feel like Metal Gear has things like that. Obviously not to this extent of a reward, but just like fun little small things that are overly complex. But if you know it, it's going to be such a cool payoff. It's just, I really love that about Pokemon.
100%. So, yeah, Latios actually comes in. And I had my Master Ball, so before it could do anything, I just lob that thing at it, and I catch it.
Very nice. What do you think of Latios?
I'm going to look up Latios again. I caught Latios today. Kind of forgot about it. It's a blue flying bird type Pokemon. Honestly, I wasn't super thrilled with the design of Latios. I think it looks like, I'm looking at it right now, it looks fairly cool, but I feel like it looks like a Pokemon I've seen before. You know what I mean by that? Like, it doesn't look wholly unique.
Sure. Look up Latias as well. Latias is his sister.
Yes. Latias is the red type, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of the inverse, right? Looking the opposite way. It's red instead of blue. They're cool. Are they dragon type Pokemon or just flying?
I believe they're just flying. Oh, they are. Oh, actually, my mistake. They're not flying types. They're dragon psychic. That's a good combo.
That's interesting. Okay, now that you said that, that has me interested in these Pokemon.
Yeah, because like,
I already got my flying water type, so having a dragon psychic type, that's interesting.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I wanted Latios on my team so badly. Like, Latios is one of my favorite Pokemon from Gen 3, but it was just impossible because I used the Master Ball in my original playthrough on Rayquaza. So I was like, I think I ran into Latios once, and I was like, well, shit, I can't do anything. Like, a little bit about the design. They're inspired after jet planes.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Because, like, the tails on them, especially on Latias, it has, like, sort of two fins in the back of it. Kind of looks like fighter jets. So that's cool.
Yeah, I have the Pokedex entry pulled up. I'm trying to see if there's any reference to... oh, yes, okay. So, the Pokedex entry for them in Diamond and Pearl says, a highly intelligent Pokemon, by folding back its wings in flight, it can overtake jet planes.
Whoa.
So
the more you describe these Pokemon, the more I'm impressed. I guess initial blush, it looked like generic OP Pokemon. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I feel like I've seen this before, but the Dragon and Psychic type has me interested. Now, this is only post-game, right?
Yes. The only way you can spawn it in the world is by having that interaction with your mom.
Gotcha.
So, you said why level 40?
Yeah, what's the deal?
Okay, so there's a difference for some reason in Pokemon between the types of legendaries there are.
I will always be confused by this, by the way.
I know.
You've explained it like 1,000 times. I will always be confused.
So there's the box art boys, right? Like there's Groudon, Kyogre. For Gen 2, there's Lugia and Ho-Oh. And then moving forward, there's the Diamond one and the Pearl one, no spoilers. And then usually between the two, starting from this game, there's like a third one that's like even higher power, right? And then
Rayquaza, right?
Yes. So then beneath, in every generation, beneath the box legendaries, there's a group of usually 3. So in Gen 1, it was Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. Gen 2, Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. Here, there's a variety of them. Like, there's the Reggies, which have their very complex puzzle behind them. There's the roaming legendaries, like Latios, Latias, the Reggies are all on par with, like, Suicune or Zapdos on that level of being legendary.
I see. Capital L, lowercase l legendaries.
Yeah, kind of. I think lowercase l is like implies there's more than one in existence, perhaps.
They're just super rare.
Yes, I think that's what it is, because I've also heard the term mythical Pokemon thrown around. I thought that could be applicable to this, so I want to do a quick search. Apparently, this is just a difference of marketing, and trainers, if I'm wrong, please let me know. I will carry the knowledge into season 4. Apparently, mythical Pokemon requires going to an event. So Deoxys would be a mythical Pokemon, but Rayquaza is a legendary. I know there's a lot I'm throwing at you with these legendaries, but there's like different tiers, kind of. Just think of it that way.
Gotcha. So, what I would like for the Gen 4 remakes coming out, what are they called again? Something Diamond and Pearl? Like
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Brilliant and Shining. Okay, gotcha. So, with those coming out, I would like a similar event-style thing akin to bringing in your cart to GameStop or mall. Having someone spit. Remember the pennies that you'd put in like 4 quarters to get a stupid rounded penny, which made no economic sense, but that's how it was.
Scams.
I want
scams in these shopping malls.
I want something like that where you put in your cartridge and then Mr. Nintendo with his like twirly mustache and top hat, or I get Mr. Pokemon, I should say, with his twirly mustache and top hat, like puts it in and like cranks some sort of crank and then pops it out, and it's like, you got a weird Pokemon in this thing now. Go find it. Now, of course, the pandemic is still a thing.
Yes.
I think it would be cool if there was some sort of like maybe Pokemon Go integration with this, or even like Switch integration, where you like go out to like a real world like Pokemon Go gym, and interact with it somehow to get that sort of event type Pokemon integration into Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl for whatever sort of event Pokemon they want. That would be fun. I'd be all about that.
That could be fun. And they haven't shied away from that in the past. Like, remember in Kanto, there's the Safari Zone? So in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, instead of the Safari Zone, there's like, I think it's called Go Park, where you can transfer Pokemon you've caught in Pokemon Go on your phone to the Go Park, capture them again in the game, and then you just have them on your team. So if I caught a Squirtle down by 7-Eleven, I could pop it in Let's Go Pikachu and then have a great time, you know?
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, I don't know if they did that with Sword and Shield, but I remember them talking about it with Let's Go. So maybe they just didn't talk about it with Sword and Shield, but you can absolutely do that with Let's Go. So maybe they could work it in there.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because I don't, as much as I'd love them to replicate the process of the Diamond and Pearl from back in the day, they could just do it over Wi-Fi now, because the way it worked apparently before was that the DS had like local communication with each other. So there would be a DS at GameStop that has a cartridge specifically sent to the location, the GameStop or the Toys R Us, with like a distribution code that over its like local network would just be sending, like, emitting these free Pokemon. So if I got close enough to the frequency of this DS inside this GameStop, I could just link up my DS to it, because they have the cart with the event Pokemon on it, and then just like transmit it to me. So like Wi-Fi makes that incredibly easier. That's kind of how they've been doing event Pokemon over the past 5 years with just Wi-Fi. So as cool as I would love your idea, that would be amazing. I think we will still get event Pokemon through this process, which is not as fun, but
yeah. In either case, I do hope there is event Pokemon.
I'm sure there will be.
Cool. Yeah, I think that'll be a fun. This is another thing with moving to the new games that are coming out. I think that'll be another fun thing where we can actually check that out. Is that usually around launch? Do you remember? Or is that like a post-launch sort of thing?
They usually do it for a while after launch. Like, I know Pokemon Sword and Shield, pretty much either every other week or maybe monthly, they have different events going on with like the Pokemon that are showing up in the raid battles. With Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, you know, time feels like it didn't work the same way when we were younger. So to my knowledge, maybe it was over the course of a year, but it felt like 3 years of just dropping random events.
Cool.
So we'll see how long it goes here.
Something to look forward to. Now, you mentioned the Reggie puzzles earlier.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I looked up a wiki guide on all of them, and no thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks. So essentially, you have to catch specific Pokemon, right? And then, like, what's the deal with this? It sounded like a laborious process, and I did not want to do it.
So I think conceptually, it's very cool. Like, the idea of, hey, there's a location where this legendary will spawn, but to get that to spawn, you need to have a specific Pokemon in your party that will, like, through some sort of lore they have going on here, activate the response of the legendary to have it awaken and then interact with you. However, they really don't communicate that much at all in this game. So I think the idea of like, hey, if you want to have this legendary spawn, you have to go catch this specific Pokemon that in itself is rare. I think that makes it like a fun chase, right? Like there's a good idea there, but I think the way Emerald works, it's limited by the time. I think most recently, Sword and Shield, again, the DLC for that game had the Reggies in it, and there was a similar process, but it was much easier to find the Pokemon required to catch, to like activate it. So
yeah, to me this seems like I wouldn't even know how to begin this without a guide, or even hearing it from the trainers. So if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't have even known about this. I guess, yeah, like what you said, conceptually it is interesting because it's different. In terms of the actual Pokemon you can get from this, could you describe them and talk about if they're any good to use?
So people love the Reggies. I do as well. They're cool. There's Reggie Rock, Reggie Ice, and Reggie Steele. They're pretty cool. You know, their typing is in their name, but yeah, I think they're pretty good Pokemon. Like they're I think they're probably more effective and maybe worth investing more in than the dogs, maybe. I never really did that. I never really invested in one. I think I might have caught Reggie Rock as a kid because for some reason I think Reggie Rock was the easier one to attain. But yeah, I think the Reggies are cool. They share some similarities where they're kind of like all golems in a way, and they have a pattern of dots on their bodies that like have some weird symbology with them. But I think they're pretty cool looking Pokemon, honestly, for legendaries.
I'm looking at all three of them. I think if I had to choose, I would probably choose Reggie Ice for me.
Okay.
Reggie Steele looks and reminds me of the enemies in The Incredibles.
Sure. I can see that.
You know, like the one where, what's his name has to, it's like controlling them with his like wrist rocket or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that reminds me of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Reggie Rock, I already got Chad Gable. Sorry, dude.
Of course, yes. Yeah, I really like Reggie Rock the most. I think I like his shoulders and stuff. It's cool design.
Yeah, he looks like a Korg.
Sure.
Marvel.
Yes, agreed.
Whatever they're called.
But yeah, that is the Reggie puzzle. That's how that works. I think it's much more like it captures the spirit in Sword and Shield more because it's like there's 3 temples. Well, there's more than 3, but that's spoiler territory. There's some temples that you go up to it. They give you a little riddle, and it's like, okay, there is a Pokemon that could solve, like, its existence, its design, and its just being would be the answer to the riddle that this door is giving me. So then you have to go out into the wild area, which is the open world where you see these Pokemon in the wild, so you know what you're going to get into. You have to go find one on this island, so it's not like an overwhelming huge region to explore. Like, your answer is in this vicinity. Maybe it takes like 20 minutes to find the answer, but if you know it immediately, if you have a good knowledge of Pokemon, you can be looking for that specific one, get it, put it in the party, go to the door, then the door opens, and then you can encounter the legendary Reggie in that tomb. So they were able to get to it eventually to make it more streamlined and still fun and retain that spirit, but here it is a little cumbersome, like you said.
That system sounds definitely better. Now, are the Reggie Pokemon... It sounds like they continue onward. Are they in every iteration after this?
So, the Reggie Pokemon, like I mentioned, are fan favorites, and the Pokemon, I guess, Game Freak has created more Reggies in later games. Okay. I believe... Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I think I might have gotten my Reggie in Diamond and Pearl.
Oh.
Not in Emerald. So, yes, they are attainable in the future.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. I think they might have streamlined it maybe in Diamond and Pearl. So maybe we do the Reggies next gen.
Yeah, and I'm sure maybe even if there's like some small improvements with the remakes, then maybe that will be easier. So maybe
sure, yeah.
Come across that next gen.
Definitely.
So I guess we could sort of wrap up in terms of moving on to basically our final thoughts on Emerald and how it compares to the previous Pokemon we played. So Christian, I guess, do you want to start with the story?
Sure.
So for me, maybe this is just the obvious answer, but I feel like this is the best story so far in terms of the 3 games we got. Because Red and Blue was more focused on, obviously, you becoming the gym leader. It was like an introduction to the world of Pokemon. I think it handled both of those things fairly well. And then it also sort of dealt with Team Rocket being the evil bad dudes in the game. That was just sort of fairly basic. Not a lot to them, but overall, I think the story of that was fun. It was novel, but it wasn't too much beyond that. I think with Crystal, it was sort of like rinse, wash, repeat. Like, I didn't really necessarily get the sense that the story itself was all that interesting. But with Emerald, I really liked the idea of having the 2 warring factions, and both of them sort of wanting to do the same thing essentially, but in their own way, bring about sort of catastrophic events, but for their own gain. Also sort of being idealistic in the same sense. Like, they weren't inherently evil. They felt like it was sort of like Thanos in a way, where it's like he thought he was doing the right thing, despite the means to achieve those ends. And Aqua and Magma were sort of along those lines as well. So in their own way. So I did like the Emerald story a lot better than the previous 2. What about you?
Yeah, I I agree with everything you said about Red and Blue, but I do think there's something charming to the simplicity of Red and Blue, because it's like, I think Red and Blue is able to capture that sense of wonder better. And it's not just because it's the first one. I think the idea of, hey, you turn 10, you get a Pokemon, and then you go out to explore this world, I think it feels a bit more freeing, right? And there's more opportunities for exploration and curiosity in that world, where here, it's much more guided, and I don't think that's bad. But it's definitely different. And I think Crystal, we all know I'm not a huge fan of Gen 2, because there's a litany of reasons, but everything you said about like it feeling a repeat on the story side, I think to its detriment, Crystal sort of like really doesn't have a story, you know? Like, I don't think Gen 1 really does too much either. It's more of a concept and like a series of events that's happening, but like you're making your own story there in Gen 1. And Gen 2, it's like you got this weird thing with the boss's son, and then like Team Rocket's kind of back for some reason, and then if you want this dog, you can get this dog. Like, it's a bit a little too open, right? Where I think they found their focus. They found a arc that works of like, hey, you're going to experience this evil team. They want to use Pokemon for their own dastardly reasons, and then you can use your wholeheartedness and whimsical view of the world as a child to like sort of show them the error of their ways. So I think that initial nugget of doing that for Giovanni, they expound on that here where they didn't in Crystal. And I think the differences between Emerald's story and Red and Blue story, they're obviously going for very different things, but this is the most fleshed out story for sure. So I agree with you.
Totally. I think if I were to replay the Pokemon games, I would definitely want to replay Emerald. And we'll get to some more reasons why. But right now, I would wholeheartedly choose Blue over Crystal. I agree with you. I don't think I love Crystal. Definitely not as much as other people do. I'm probably more in your camp, where it seemed a little too repetitive, and it wasn't sort of the sequel I was expecting.
Yes.
Whereas Emerald was definitely fits that mold where, like, I'm trying to compare it to another game. Crystal feels more like Blue 1.5 rather than a whole full-fledged sequel.
Spider-Man Miles Morales.
In a way, yes, but I don't want to say that as a pejorative to Miles Morales.
Right, Miles Morales is way better than Crystal.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to even think of one. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Infamous Festival of Blood.
Yeah, Infamous Festival of Blood. Oh man, I don't know. I can't think of a good one. Usually I'm okay at these, but I can't think of the one for one. But yeah, maybe Infamous Festival of Blood. Yeah, it didn't offer anything wholly unique in a way that I think Emerald does. So, but in terms of story, yeah, I think Emerald is clearing away the winner. But yes, I do like the simplicity of Blue, like what you said. And eventually I probably will go back to Blue, just with the sort of knowledge of what I gained through playing through 3 Pokemon games and see how I fare.
Sure. Well, I think there's also the avenue for you as well that Red and Blue were remade in the Emerald engine for Fire Red and Leaf Green, which Fire Red was the first time I beat Kanto. I never beat Red until way after the fact. So I do think there's something there. To my memory, I don't think they changed much of the story in Fire Red and Leaf Green, but the quality of life changes are there. So
that's an excellent idea. I will probably do that now that you say that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the rival a little bit. Initially, when you pitched the idea in Crystal that the rivals got a little bit more helpful and a little less antagonistic than, for me, Johnny was in Crystal, I think I really liked that idea, but like the premise of that sort of a rival is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think May didn't turn out to be all that she could have been. And she felt more of like, I said this I think last week. She felt more of like a checkpoint pretty much every week, where it's like, I hope you leveled your Pokemon up enough, and then you battle her, which I think is optional most of the time. And then she's like, cool, I'll catch you later. And that's pretty much all we get with May. So yeah, I feel like they could have gone a longer way of making her feel more like you're equal, and you're both trying to attain this same thing, so you're both competitors in that aspect, but you also both want each other to succeed, no matter who wins. So I feel like they could have gone a little bit further in sort of conveying that, and I didn't necessarily get that with May, unfortunately.
And last week we talked about maybe the underwhelming aspects of May as a rival maybe being tied to the fact that they kind of split your rival between May and Wally. So, like, do you think in the future you'd want to have a cast of, you know, childhood friends that you're going along this journey with, so you have, like, multiple people as checkpoints, or, like, maybe some of them are meaner than others, or, like, would you prefer mainly having that one childhood rival like Ash?
That's interesting. Immediately I thought of My Hero Academia, where Midoriya has like a cast and like a classroom of quote unquote rivals that everyone's sort of competitive against each other in that classroom, but in the same sense, they're all like a member and members of a class and a community, and they do want to better each other. But I think that could be interesting, where you have that whole like classroom setting in a way, but also Midoriya has Bakugo as like the number one rival, and he's the focus. So that could be interesting. To me, that makes me think of like gym leaders in that way. But yeah, that could be interesting, where like you start the game and there's like a group of people that are doing the same thing that you are, but then before you head out, there's one dude or one person who comes up to you and is like, I'm focusing my energy on you. That could be interesting. I like that idea.
Sure.
Yeah. So anything else you have to say about May? Do you think the rivals maybe get better in the gens going forward? I know a lot of people don't like them going forward.
With Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield, the rival is way more friendly than even May. From memory,
kissing you every time they see you.
Basically, yeah. From memory, with Diamond and Pearl, I liked the rival situation, but that was again over 10 years ago, so I could be completely misremembering things. But I can't speak to Gen 5 or 6 because those are my I missed those. I did not play those games. But I think we might be better off next time than we were with May and to an extent Wally.
Excellent. That has me hopeful. So I guess we could compare the regions now, but I also want to include this question that you included in the docket here. So do you want to ask that question?
Sure. So basically I was just wondering, because we played two Pokemon games before this one, Game Boy and Game Boy Color, but essentially the same thing. With the benefit of the GBA from like a presentation standpoint, with the visuals, the soundtrack, just definition of what you're looking at, like how much of a improvement do the visuals give you here? Like, I know to an extent they could be superficial and like the visuals don't really make it so you can run faster, but like the hardware does. So like what's your thoughts on the presentation in terms of the way you think of Emerald?
So yeah, I think we talked about this in the first episode. I think the visual bump and sort of the graphics improvement, and basically any improvement from the GBA for Pokemon, goes a long way in differentiating Emerald from blue or red and blue or crystal. And I think for the benefit of this game, it is, when I like booted this up and started listening to the music and running around the environment and seeing what was happening, I was pretty much blown away coming from Crystal and Blue. Like, I feel like this game does a really good job of situating you in Hoenn compared to the other games situating you in Kanto and Johto. I think the music is some of the most beautiful, like, old school music I've heard in a game, really. There have been, like, so many points where I, like, enter a new region and just sort of sit there for a little bit and just listen to what was happening.
The horns, dude.
Yeah.
Very
yeah,
good.
honestly, like, they can, with the improvements of the hardware, they can add in more defined music. And it's not just sort of the chiptune-y stuff, which is fun, but you wouldn't want to listen to that, like, out and about, right? Like, I could totally see myself just putting this on, doing some homework or something, and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think overall the quality of life, the graphical improvements, the musical improvements, everything just sort of makes Hoenn a little bit more, stand out a little bit more compared to Kanto and Johto, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to separate, you know, because of my history with these first three games, but I do think Hoenn has a great identity for, I'll say the original version, because, like, they don't change much in the world, I don't think, in the way it's presented between Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, the way, like, obviously the remakes of Kanto and Johto have done, but yeah, I think that it makes a very strong first impression, and I think specifically because we're playing it so close to Crystal, where Crystal was like, I remember for a couple of weeks we were like waiting for, it's like, okay, what makes this Johto? This was like out the gate. It's like, okay, new Pokemon, new look, new sound. Obviously, you're gonna have more of that jump because Crystal looks like red and blue, right? Like, that's just a fact. But this is so drastic. But I think, like you're saying, on many levels, Hoenn feels new and fresh compared to the last two.
I think when I was talking about this game in the first episode, I said when I think of Pokemon, I'll think of Emerald. Like, old Pokemon, I'll think of Emerald. Mm-hmm. And I think that's still true. Like 8 to 9 weeks removed. It just has its own identity with the color it uses, the music it uses, the sounds and all that, while still being Pokemon at the end of the day. So yeah, I think Emerald goes a long way of making this game look visually striking, and I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think you are correct, and I'll throw in there, I think that the look of the GBA Pokemon games, like you're saying, is sort of that classic look, because again, I have my experience with Kanto, 90% of it is Fire Red. So, like, I think everything you're saying I can agree with and think of it through the lens of Kanto, because Fire Red, I think, takes all the best elements of Gen 3 and makes Kanto feel more up to date. Like, I'm pretty sure they redid the soundtrack. All the visuals are redone in the style, the color tones of the GBA hardware in this Emerald engine. So, yeah, I think the look of the GBA Pokemon games is pretty iconic and kind of like the best of the old ones, you know, of the Game Boy era, because I'll throw GBA in there too.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Now, do you have any other topics or questions or issues you want to discuss before doing a more sort of broad ranking of the 3 Pokemons that we've played?
I want to ask specifically, because I think we talked about it in maybe the first or second episode of this season. IGN, too much water. Any final thoughts on that? Like, is there too much water in this game, from the region design to the Pokemon? Like, how do you feel about that now that you've seen it all?
There's absolutely more water in this game than the previous 2 games. That's a fact, okay?
Yes.
But I never thought that got in the way too much. I think I said, like, I could see that being annoying, where you can, like, swim around on the right side of the map and it's maybe a little bit hard to figure out where you're going because it's just ocean all around you. But for the most part, it's not too much. I think the water on the left side of the map is entirely optional, from what I remember. I think I finished gym and I went to where like Mr. Briny sailed you around just to get those trainers, just to get that XP, but I think that was mostly optional. So I don't think it was enough in your face where that it got making it annoying. So for me, that wasn't a deal breaker, and it really didn't bother me all that much. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like that you have 3 HMs dedicated to maneuvering water. I think that's kind of bad, but yeah, it never got in the way for me. It's like at points it's like okay, but that's really the extent of the inconvenience, right? Because I think it is so, like you're saying, the forceful part of it is so localized to like late game, and that by that point, like I have a chunky grass type that can just mow through all these water Pokemon, so like I didn't really care, you know?
Yeah.
On a similar page, you know, I know in Gen 1, big fan of a bunch of the Pokemon designs, mainly Bellsprout. Gen 2, not so much, but Wooper's a highlight. Overall, now that you've seen the game, you have your Hall of Fame team compared to the other ones. Any favorite Pokemon from this gen, or just, I guess, final thoughts on your team composition this time around?
Yes, that's a good question. I love the designs in Emerald, like both with the Gen 1, Gen 2 upgrades that you can just discern them a little bit more easily, and the new designs I think were... I think there's a lot of cool Pokemon in Gen 3. Like, standouts for me, Numel I think is really cool. I never used Numel, but I think going back and having a fire ground type would be really interesting, and that could sort of alleviate having like a Geodude in my party, for example. Along that line, I love Torkoal. I think Torkoal's like one of, if not my favorite fire type Pokemon, for sure. I had a hard time finding fire type Pokemon in Gen 1 because I didn't go with Charmander. So yeah, I think Torkoal fills that role pretty easily. And also going along with sort of like filling out my party and like what my party looks like compared to the other two parties that I had. I was nervous at first with typing, and I found that by the end of the first gym, I was like, I don't really have too many Pokemon I can feel like I can rely on. But by the end of it, like I was using Wingull at that point, and Pelipper made it to the Hall of Fame. And I feel like this game did a really good job, maybe except the point where I was facing Watson, that I had issues with. But for the most part, I feel like it did a really good job of giving you the Pokemon you needed for the gyms that you're about to face. And there were some really cool Pokemon, like Pelipper I loved, Manectric was awesome, Torkoal with my Yurtle, the Panda King, like by the end of this, pretty much all of the Pokemon in my party were like Gen 3, except for Geodude, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, Gen 3 had some really great standouts.
Very nice. So the bar has been raised then?
The bar has indeed been raised. I'm looking forward to seeing the leap in terms of designs for Gen 4, obviously because we're doing the remake, so we're getting presumably the Sword and Shield designs, would you say?
Yes, but like not all of them are in Sword and Shield, but like basically the 3D versions of these Pokemon, yes. So like a lot of the actual models that they use for the 3D Pokemon, they don't have any more textures than they did on like when we first got the 3D versions of them. The lighting is better, but yeah, texture wise, it's like, yeah, it's the 3D versions of these Pokemon that we've seen before. So you haven't, but Pokemon design wise, yes, you'll still see the improvements, the leaps, the new ideas for what can be a Pokemon. No ice cream guy yet. That's not Gen 4, but there's some really good Gen 4 Pokemon that I think build off of the ideas and fun they have with the designs here, for sure.
Excellent. So that's something to look forward to. Let's talk about sort of your experience with this game, going back into it. So how would you sort of compare how you, or like sort of what you experienced with Emerald compared to Crystal and Red playing through this for the show?
So playing through Red was very fun because I've only beaten Red once in my life before that. And going through that again, not using a Charizard, so like experimenting with Bulbasaur, who is a Pokemon I like, it gave me a lot of new ways to look at that game. I think the issues and grievances I have with Pokemon Red, I've just dealt with for so long that like it didn't bother me much. Crystal, on the other hand, clearly not as much love for. I love Pokemon Soul Silver, the remake of Gen 2 on the DS. One of the best Pokemon games ever made, straight up. But Gen 2, no. Some of those weeks were a slog, I think, just because of the way it's paced. And just, like, so much of what makes Pokemon great, I think, is the element of discovery. And that game does not have much of that, you know? Here, obviously, like, I know because I'm revisiting it, but I still like that idea of, like, going through the game. It's the first time I find a Numel, you know? I know Numel is in the game, but, like, it's like, oh, cool, like, awesome, it's Numel. I can have Numel, I'll build my team as that being the fire type, where Gen 2 was like, what Gen 1 Pokemon do I want to have right now, you know? Like, so in the process of revisiting it, I do think I'm seeing the strengths of what I love about Pokemon more, and the weaknesses more as well. As far as weaknesses in Gen 3 goes, I do think it is, you know, some of the quality of life things that they haven't fixed so far in the series at this point, where we are playing, that I miss from newer games. But Emerald is a great Pokemon game. It is fantastic. It is a great refinement of the two we've played so far, I think. And revisiting it, I feel just as good about Pokemon Emerald as I did when I played it originally in, like, 2006, probably. So
yeah, totally. For me, like, sort of talking about any weaknesses with Emerald, it's hard for me to even think of any, because I think Emerald sort of perfected the Pokemon formula that was introduced with Blue and sort of kind of left stagnant in Crystal. Mm-hmm. It's wholeheartedly a Pokemon game, and it's pretty much, yeah, you're going through the 8 gyms, you're being the Pokemon champion. It's all that sort of same thing. But I think with the added sort of more nuanced story and the GBA enhancements and very cool designs for Pokemon, it's hard for me to really even think of any negatives. Where for Crystal, it was very much like, yeah, we're getting Gen 1 Pokemon pretty much constantly throughout this game. It takes a while to even really see any new Pokemon. And it felt pretty much repetitive. But yeah, Emerald, I really, really enjoy. And I think for me, it's with the enhancements of the hardware, the story and all that, but also just becoming more comfortable with actually playing these games for me. So I think by Emerald, I've become more comfortable, and I think that has a lot to do with me enjoying this game as much as I do. So with that said, do you want to sort of talk about how we would rank these games personally?
Sure. I think we're probably on the same page. I think I'll do this little asterisk here. As a region, I think, blame nostalgia, whatever you want. As a region, I still love Kanto the most out of these three. So if we were including Fire Red, which is like the remake that has the improvements and benefits and quality of life things from Emerald, but it is the story region Pokemon of Kanto, that would be my number one easily. However, with the context of what we played in the show, I think you and I are probably on the same page for the ranking. So, with what we played, how would you rank these 3 games?
So we can definitely agree that Crystal's number 3. It's at the bottom.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like Crystal. I don't get why. Like, I like Crystal. Like, it's Pokemon, right? It's like popcorn Pokemon. I don't think it really does anything to differentiate it that much from Red or Blue. I really feel like it's kind of the same. It is sort of that 1.5 iteration. It doesn't really do too much. It's sort of more, which is fine, like it's new, but it doesn't expand upon what we got in Blue. So for me, like, it is sort of more repetitive, and it doesn't do too much to set itself apart from the other 2 games. So
yeah,
number 3 spot.
It really doesn't. And as far as like new mechanics, what you can like make Pokeballs and you can have babies like that, you're telling me that's better? Like, like sure, I get the hype over Kanto being in the game, but like, as far as I know, because I did a bit of research of this when we did Crystal version, like, apparently it's like a little smaller, like some of the routes are a little shorter, like, and the town, like, it's kind of an abridged version of Kanto, but like you're not saying much there because it is still like a Game Boy game, so like it's not like you can abridge it much. But there's just so much creativity in Red and Blue, and maybe it's the fault of Red and Blue, but a lot of that overshadows in Crystal. And if you're not making improvements gameplay wise, which there are some, but like not significant enough to make it like the far and away winner, I think, and you're not even bringing a bunch of new Pokemon to the table, then like, what are you doing? It's really, I think it's just nostalgia, and I think it's people that are like get hyped over Kanto also being in Johto. I think Johto, out of the ones I played, is region-wise, I'm not saying game, because Soul Silver is amazing, but I think region-wise, Johto's like the weakest one that I played.
Yeah, Johto is kind of boring comparatively. Yeah. I would actually think, me personally, I think the water section in Johto on like the left side of the map is way worse than the water in Hoenn. Yeah, I found myself getting frustrated a lot. Like I would encounter a lot of random Pokemons even with repels and stuff. So yeah, I agree. I wasn't super. Johto really didn't do it for me in terms of regions. And yeah, Crystal overall was fun, obviously, but it compared to the other 2 games, I don't think it really holds a candle.
Agreed.
So for number 2, I would put Gen 1 for me, Blue. Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think, again, in specifically this context, then yes, Red. Red is number 2. For all the reasons we are really hot on Emerald, and what I prefaced it with, like, I would put Fire Red higher above, because I just think it's better. But yeah, all the reasons both of us love Red and Blue. And like playing it for the show gave me even a greater love, I think, for the original game. Just seeing it from your perspective and seeing how well that game holds up in terms of like design and like exploration. Because I just think that's super impressive still. That like that game, which we talked about that in Season 1, is kind of an open world game. Has so many choice-based things. It was on the Game Boy. Obviously there's things that don't hold up, but like in terms of being an experience of an RPG that is in your pocket and so iconic and creative, I think that it's pretty fantastic what that game is like in modern day.
Yeah, I love Blue. It was, for me, it was really interesting just to see how that game, obviously Pokemon is like one of the biggest things in the world, and
number 1 media franchise of all time. Yeah.
And what was it, Red and Green in Japan sort of started it all, and then Blue in America. Yeah, I really enjoyed what I played. I think the negatives for me in that game are me not understanding how to play Pokemon, right? And I don't think that's necessarily the game's fault. I would love to go and play Fire Red or Leaf Green, one of the 2, and with the knowledge I have now of Pokemon and the enhancements of Emerald for Gen 1, I would love to go back and just see what I think of that game. Because I hold that in very high regard.
Yeah.
And I think I could only think of it more positively. Understanding the franchise a little bit more.
Yeah.
And having those improvements.
I'm very curious if you do play through those games. Because I think at this point, Kanto's been remade twice. I think 3 if you count it being in Soul Silver and Heart Gold, the DS Gen 2 remakes. But like, Fire Red and Leaf Green, I think, are the most pure remakes. As a fan of just the series in general, I think Let's Go is a lot of fun, which is also a sort of remake and kind of sequel to Red and Blue. Like, there are characters in that game that aren't your rivals because it's like different kids, and there are people in that world that exist that you know from Red and Blue that are still in that world. So I think there's some cool things there. But yeah, if you were to revisit Gen 1, I think Fire Red and Leaf Green would probably be the way to go about it. And just, I'm also kind of curious too of like, probably not playing through the whole game, but like, I want to pop back into Fire Red and like post Emerald revisit, see how I feel about that. So if you do that on your own this year, I'd be down to just talk with you about your final thoughts on that game and just have a conversation about looking back at Kanto at some point, because I think there's absolutely something worth hearing there from your perspective.
Yeah, maybe sometime in the summer, we could jump into that, do like a one-off episode or two on that. That'd be interesting, because I do want to revisit Kanto after Emerald, of course, with the Emerald graphics and all that. That'd be cool.
Hell yeah.
So maybe. So of course, let's talk about the number one. Obviously, what else really more is there to say? But I think Emerald, from my perspective, going through Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, I think Emerald proves itself as the refinement of the Pokemon formula in a lot of ways. Visually, obviously, story-wise, we talked about. And then there's just the ease of use improvements with, I guess, like using HMs quickly and stuff like that. I think that the game sort of sets itself apart in a lot of ways. I think it still has issues with still using HMs. I think is super annoying. There are some things that the game doesn't tell you necessarily what to do, and I found myself having to look up some stuff a lot of times. But I think that will probably improve. But with Emerald, yeah, those are sort of the downsides to the game. But overall, I think when I'll think of Pokemon, I'll probably think of Emerald at this point. What about you?
Yeah, obviously I think from what we played so far, so much of it rides on convenience for me and ease of use, because Red and Crystal, they're slower games, they're older games, right? Like, they're limited by their hardware. Emerald is able to make things faster, snappier, easier, and I think revisiting an old game, like, the better suited it is for speed and efficiency, the better it will age. And I think in this case, it's a shining example of this series so far. I think downsides for me is like, I bring up Too Much Water as a meme, but I think that the game doesn't have as much, I don't think it has a good spread for new Pokemon in terms of their typing, right? There's a lot of new Pokemon, a lot of them are water types. We have like 2 fire types in the, or 3 if Slugma is new, but like, that kind of sucks, right? Like, you have Numel, Torkoal, or Slugma. I think that's it, unless you're like trading in from previous generations. But yeah, everything we talked about with the story, I think the introduction and the idea of all these legendaries as well, it's starting to form that idea of what Pokemon should feel like and should be, I think. So yeah, out of what we played, Emerald is the king.
There you have it. Emerald. I was honestly kind of surprised. I didn't necessarily think I would have too much new to say at this point. But yeah, there's not too much more I can really say about it. But yeah, I think Emerald does a good job at setting itself apart.
Agreed.
I want to look at the I want to talk about the starters a little bit.
Sure.
So with Gen 3, with Emerald, I should say, we have, I'm trying to remember even Sceptile's name at this point.
Trico.
Remind me. Trico? You take it, because I am honestly blanking on them. I'm trying to look them up right now.
Yeah, Trico, Mudkip, and Torchic.
Okay. So I think that is probably... Obviously, Gen 1 has the best.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking of Crystal. Crystal had some good starters, except for Chikorita.
Yeah, and like Meganium, no.
Yeah.
And like Cyndaquil is a great starter. I've never been fond of Typhlosion personally. Kind of boring. I think the starters in Gen 3 are pretty great. I think there's no weak ones out of the group. Like Torchic, I've never done a Torchic run, but I don't think have encountered. I saw a trainer a couple weeks ago, I think, say that you would never see this. Torchic's final form. Have you seen a Blaziken?
I don't think so. Let me look that up.
Blaziken.
Okay, let's see. Blaziken. Oh my god. This is the fire type final evolution?
Yeah.
This thing's scary.
Yeah, dude. It's firefighting. Got kicks.
Wow. Oh, so it evolves into a firefighting type?
Yes.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah. Design thoughts?
Yeah, this thing's scary. What's that? Design thoughts? It's kind of scary. I didn't anticipate this little chicken turned into this Blaziken.
Yeah, it's got like giant legs. It's got long hair. It looks like a Mortal Kombat character, dude. It
really does. That's so funny. The other two, I gave Torchic kind of some shit because it's just a little chicken. Torchic evolves into its second evolution is just a chicken.
Yeah, Combuskin.
And then its third evolution is this fighting weird anomaly that looks like it does not belong. On multiple choice, it'd be like, which does not belong in this? That would be it. Blaziken would not belong.
Yeah.
But I can understand why people would want to go through Torchic to get this weird Pokemon.
Swampert. Did we talk about Swampert much?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so Swampert's the third form of Mudkip. In the remake, I was a Mudkip trainer. I love Swampert. I think Swampert is a very cool Pokemon in terms of a final form of a starter.
I'm looking through all the Mudkip evolutions. Mudkip was a Pokemon that I was thinking about using, but I had used water before, and I guess have used all the starter types, so that's nice. But I had known Mudkip before, so that sort of dissuaded me from picking Mudkip. But yeah, Mudkip looks pretty cool. I like the evolution into Swampert, probably more so than Blaziken. Blaziken's a little intimidating, but Swampert makes sense. Swampert definitely makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So,
and then Trico, of course. Trico, my favorite grass type Pokemon starter, at least.
Yeah, Trico's great. Trico has I think out of the three, if we want to talk like all three forms, I think Trico's all three forms are the best out of the three.
100%. Yeah, because Trico has that cute factor. Grovyle looks super cool. Looks like a flying grass type. Yeah. And then Sceptile is like this, like stands up on its hind legs and has a cool tail. Big fan.
Yeah, they're like ninja grass geckos. They're awesome.
Yeah. So I think Gen 1 definitely has the best starters. I think that's sort of not even debatable at this point.
Yeah.
I loved Gen 2's the fire and the water type with Totodile and Cyndaquil. And I didn't like Chikorita, of course.
Nobody does.
But I think Gen 3 has a decently rounded set of starters.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I don't love them all, like, a lot. but Trico, of course, I love. But the other two, I think, are good in their own right. I wouldn't say they're like these legendary starters, but I think they're better rounded than Gen 2, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. You passed on that angle for sure. Like, that is very good.
Excellent.
I only have one other question.
Mm-hmm.
I think this could be fun moving forward, because we are playing one game per series at this point. If you could choose one Pokemon from each gen so far for your ultimate team as we're going through it, you know, like you get 3 options right now: one from Kanto, one from Johto, one from Hoenn.
Okay.
And you can modify it as we play more gens, but I'm curious who these 3 would be at the moment.
Okay. Would you choose starters?
You could choose maybe one starter, maybe your favorite starter.
Okay, excellent. That clears up a lot of things.
Okay.
So, from Gen 1, then yes, it would be Blastoise or Squirtle along that line.
Yes.
That is the clear one. Gen 2. See, now I'm at the point I'm like, I can't even think of a Gen 2 Pokemon.
Yeah, like there was Hoothoot, there was Spinarak, Togepi, Wooper.
No. Okay. Yep, Wooper. Mm-hmm. But then again, Wooper is.
Well, you got Water Ground. Water Ground makes it different enough.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm running through them right now via Wikipedia, and honestly, now that I think about it, I'm not even sure if I used Gen 2 Pokemon all that much.
I don't think you used many of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dunsparce.
Nope.
What else is there? Oh Christ.
Yeah,
the Eevees? Umbreon and Espeon?
No, I didn't use Umbreon or Espeon.
Okay. Miltank, maybe?
Absolutely not Miltank.
Oh, Mareep. The electric sheep.
No, not Mareep. Yeah. No. Honestly, it would probably have to be Wooper. I'm looking at Suicune maybe, but Suicune's also water. Yeah. So what's the point at this point? I would probably do Blastoise, Wooper, and then Gen 3. Now Gen 3 brings the hitters, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, even though I don't think I use this Pokemon as much as maybe some other ones, but I did use this one a lot, I would probably say Torkoal.
Nice.
It would be Blastoise, Wooper, and Torkoal.
Very nice. That's we're building the all-time team right now. So look forward to the end of Diamond and Pearl, and we'll see who's next up on getting into the all-timer club for you.
Yeah. We might reorganize the rulings of this, but yeah. If I would have to choose one from each gen, mm-hmm. that would probably be it right now. I know that's not the best typing,
right?
But we cover some bases at least.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good.
So until we get to the Gen 4 remakes, Christian, where can the people find you?
Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Chun2D2 is where you can find me. Pretty much everywhere. As well as here on youtube.com/joyclicks. Jack and I do this show, but we also do Excelsior, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. 2021, looking up for that game. So we're going to have some pretty good weeks ahead of us, in addition to continuing to review Falcon the Winter Soldier. So there's new episodes of that every Saturday. And if you like this type of game discussion, we still do the Long Play Club or working our way through Metal Gear. Don't know what game is after we finish Metal Gear, but that will be continuing through this year as well. But Jack, what about you?
Sure. You can follow me on social media at FascinatedJack. Christian and I, as well as pretty much everyone else from JoyClicks that you've seen on JoyClicks, is doing the Hall of Game. Now, Christian, can you describe this and describe the time of when this will be? Because I think if people listen to this very early, they might be able to catch it live as we do it.
So the Hall of Game, we decided that we don't fight enough, so we're making a stream event. It happens once a quarter, so we're doing a spring session, a summer, a fall, and a winter session. where 5 members of the Order of Joy-Clicks convene. We all bring a game that we think deserves to be in the legendary, brand new, shiny Joy-Clicks Hall of Game. It's a Hall of Fame for video games. We're going to make a case, present a game. We're going to argue about each game, why they don't deserve to be in there. We're all going to vote on the presentations, and the 2 that get the most votes are inducted into the Hall of Game. So the first meeting of that will be March 23rd? No, 25th? No. Wednesday. The day this episode comes out.
24th. I believe it's the 24th.
Wednesday, March 24th, looking to be 4 to 4:30 p.m. in the East Coast time. So if you're looking forward to that, if you want to see what games Jack and I bring, will it be a Pokemon game? I don't know, but yeah, this show will be up and premiered by then. So if you watch it, if you're watching it at this moment, check it out. We're probably live, probably going live soon, so you can be there for that.
Yeah, I'm just super excited to see what everyone will bring, because I think everyone has like the obvious choices that they would bring, but I have a feeling that we're not all gonna bring the obvious choices.
Yeah,
right. Like people know my favorite game. I'm not bringing my favorite game.
I'm not either. So there are. So I'm like the one who's orchestrating the stream setup, so I have to know everybody's, and I'll say this: everybody's bringing something good. So look forward to that. Very, very exciting.
So yeah, I guess thank you all for listening to my first Mon. This has been the 3rd iteration of it, so we've been happy to continue with all of you, and we're excited for the future.
Oh yeah.
So until next time, we'll catch you later.